really look at it as a bounce back situation for Max Scherzer. And you either?
No.
Well, thank God.
I have concerns.
Yeah, great minds think alike, Jerry. So I think that a lot of people will watch this game and say, wow, Scherzer got his ass kicked in Milwaukee, and he really needs to come back and pitch well. And look, he had a no-hitter going, and he was great. He didn't give up a run. All right, if you watch the game, he is battling his ass off in this game. I mean, in the first inning, gets bailed out by the double play.
Yeah.
There's foul balls all over the place. I understand it's a tough lineup.
That's it, though. That's it. There's no swings and misses.
Yeah, so it's a tough lineup, but I mean, this guy is way up there with his pitch count. I mean, Darvish, who wasn't as good as Max Scherzer, was way more economical with his pitch count, and the Mets have to go into this underbelly of this bullpen that all of a sudden isn't as good because of the Edwin Diaz injury, and they're lucky they got out of it, but I just need more from Max Scherzer. I need more. Now, you want to tell me that he needed this start? If he had gotten knocked around by this Padres lineup, I really would have been going nuts? Yes. But this was not a great start for Max Scherzer. It was not. It was better, and there were some things that helped him out. But this was a guy, to me, last night who was laboring. He was laboring for most of the night, and when you're 38 years old and you're laboring in April, when you have gotten off to this bad start, I want to see more from the guy.
I could not agree more. So I'm watching it and thinking, all right, so he gets through the first inning, was it 22, 23 pitches, and it felt like a million, number one. Everything's a 3-2 count. The at-bat with, I think it was Austin Nola was his last batter that he faced, was one of these 12. It's funny because right before the at-bat, I think Gary Cohen said, if he can get a first pitch or second pitch out, might see him in the sixth inning. Well, that was a curse because not only not get a 1 or a 2 pitch at bat, I think it was 12, and Nola fouled off pitch after pitch after, and that to me was the story of the night, was the amount of foul balls and the lack of swings and misses. Now, he had a couple on some sliders that were good pitches, but he didn't have that knockout pitch. He did battle. He is going to give you a good effort. I think he's going to go out there and give you his best. I actually think his best outing so far this year was his first outing.
Yeah, and then because he pitched really well, and it was just the sixth inning, ended up giving up a couple of home runs. But yeah, I would agree with that. Now, you want to tell me this is a step in the right direction? I'll take that.
Sure.
But I'm not going to take that he's back. And he said that, I'm not broken, fine, is what he says after the game. But this was better because he wasn't leaving pitches over the plate to get crushed. However, you're right, no knockout pitch, and he's someone that I'm judging him on if he's going to deliver a championship to the New York Mets. That's what I'm judging him on, because he was brought here to do that. He wasn't brought here by Steve Cohen to be a shiny, bright little shiny thing to sell season tickets. He was brought here to change a culture, to also pitch in the biggest games that the Mets could possibly pitch in. And when I've seen him in those spots, he's failed.
Yeah.
So when the team that comes in and crushed him last year in the playoffs comes here and he shuts them down, I'm happy on one hand, but also I'm thinking if he does that in the playoffs, I'm not too happy about it because he's out of the game in the fifth inning.
And I think Nimmo probably summed it up best. They put one of his quotes on the screen during the game at one point where he said, doesn't matter what we do in the regular season, 101 wins, no one remembers that. All they remember are their last 2 losses. And he's right. And to your point about Scherzer, that's all we think about from last season. I was at the Met-Yankee game with Boomer when Scherzer pitched at Citi Field. And he dazzled. He was awesome. But I don't think of that. I think of the Brave game. I think of the Padre game. And Nimmo's right. It's until they win, until he leaves the mound a winner in the postseason, that's going to be the lasting impression.
Yeah, it's funny because when Brandon Nimmo said that, I was like, well, wait a second. Every time I say that, there's Mets fans that call up. There's Mets fans that send us social media messages that'll say, they won 101 games. What are you, nuts? They won 101 games. Why are you negative about them? So really what it comes down to is how you feel about this team and what last year meant to you. And if you're one of these positive fans that said, hey, that was a great season, I really enjoyed it, the trumpets and Edwin Diaz at 101 games, even though they didn't win the division, they gave us playoff baseball and they're going to come back and be even better, then you're going to use that 101 wins as a reference point. If you're someone like me that has seen everything, the Mets have done everything in my rememberable lifetime, if that's such a phrase, but win a World Series, then the 101 wins means nothing. Right. So I like the fact that Brandon Nimmo is thinking about that and just get into the postseason this time and have Max Scherzer not give up. It's funny because Gary Cohen in the first inning, what was it? He's facing Grisham, and Gary Cohen brings up He goes, yeah, if Max Scherzer seems a little more dialed in here, because Grisham was one of the 4 guys that he gave home runs up to on that Friday night in the playoffs.
Think about that.
I mean, I remember he was so bad, but I forgot he'd given up 4 home runs.
Yeah, it was terrible. It was absolutely terrible. And, part of it, too, is, and I know they scored the couple of runs, so he actually left with a lead, which is good.
Yeah.
And I'm not breaking any new news here. It's their offense is just nothing.
Yeah, I know.
Like, it's literally nothing. And, they get you had the O'Neill hit, which was huge. Clearly, it was huge. He rips the ball down the right field line or, towards right field. But other than that, they ain't doing a whole hell of a lot. And the pitching-wise, and when you get beyond the starters, Drew Smith I thought was very good. I thought he was the best of the bunch last night. Then they were talking about John Curtis, and he's going to be this great pickup for the Mets after the Tommy John surgery, and he might be. And I know he threw a clean inning last night, but my God, throw a strike. Yeah. Like, it's mind-numbing to watch these guys. Thank God for the pitch clock. We'd be there until 11:30 last night with the walks.
I know. Did you like what SNY was doing with the pitch clock? Because I did not. Now, I've loved everything that SNY has done with the broadcast, and I think that they have done things that no one else has done in baseball, and it's sort of like the standard when it comes to these things. And it was the same producer that made that Edwin Diaz viral situation when they followed him in from the bullpen. Right, yep. But this to me was to have this. If for people who didn't see it last night,
I didn't like it.
So there's a split screen of the pitcher and the hitter. So it's Scherzer and whatever Padre is up, and then in the middle is the pitch clock going down. And I like the pitch clock. I don't want to see the pitch clock.
I like it on the left part of the screen. It's fine. With that, that's all I need.
Right. It just if I want to look at it, fine. I don't need it in my face like that.
I agree.
Because then now you're talking like if you didn't know that the pitch clock was a thing this year and you just started watching baseball, you're like, this is great. They're moving along. This is awesome. The guys are getting back in the box. And that's the way I want to watch it. I don't need to see a giant 5-4. Right. It's like it's New Year's Eve.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. And what was interesting with Scherzer, he's one who's talked about, and so I'm with you. I don't care for that part of the production, although I think he's been good in the past with other things he's done. Scherzer has complained about it. He says he likes the pace, doesn't like the clock. Meantime, I'm watching him. Every time he pitches the ball, there's 9 seconds on the pitch clock.
Yeah.
Like, if there's ever a guy that it really doesn't apply to, it's him.
Sure.
So it's funny that he's complained about it. There was one part in the game, though, and I honestly don't remember if it was if it was the 5th inning or the 4th inning, I'm not sure, where he did have a runner on third, and he stepped off the mound and had that conversation with the umpire, I guess, to ask if it was a, what do you call it?
Mounded timeout or...
Yeah, I forget what they call it. Not interaction. What the hell's it called? Well, whatever. Doesn't matter.
Disengagement?
Thank you. The disengagement. Yeah. And Ron made a point. He goes, Keith first said, I don't like this. They got to be worried about the batter, not worried about disengagements, and does that one count? And Ron said, I think it was Ron, he goes, not only that, he almost balked a run home.
Sure.
Because he was unsure in the way he stepped off. That's the part I don't like. Love the fact that we got the pitch clock. I don't care for little things like that could be a problem down the road. But for the most part, been enjoyable to watch. And he is like, give me the ball, let's pitch. Give me the ball, let's pitch. He moves.
Yeah, which is good and also could tire him out a little bit too, because that's something that they have talked about. Not just Max Scherzer, but also Carlos Carrasco, who has been horrendous so far this year. But yeah, I mean, I know that this was a win that I wanted, a win that I was demanding yesterday early on in the season. But there are still issues, and you're right about the offense. If you just wake up and you're like, oh, Scherzer, very good, 5-0, everything. But I mean, when they tacked on runs, like look how they tacked on runs. Mm-hmm. They had a bunt. I mean, they had 2 balls hug the line.
Basically.
Like, defying physics.
The Gourmet one actually went foul and came back fair.
Yeah.
The one thing I would say that I did like about that, though, you get the runner to second and you're bunting them over, and then you get the sac fly.
Yeah.
I mean, that's actually working out a way to score a run, manufacturing on that we haven't seen in a really long time. So I did like that.
Sure. And then Lindor, 2 outs. He's got a 2-0 count, gets a pitch to hit, and he rips it down the line. So that was good. But I just, the high I've got very, very high standards for this team, and I am not apologizing for that.
No, I agree. And I'm not expecting them to score 12 runs a game by any stretch.
No.
But I would like to see a little bit more traffic on the bases, a couple more base hits, drive some more runs. And I'm not looking for 4 home runs a game, but just, I don't know. It's almost at times boring, to be quite honest. There's not a whole lot going on. And that's because we can go back to the whole Correa thing. He was the missing piece. He was the guy that they wanted. He thought they completed the lineup. And then they don't get him or decide not to get him. And what did they replace him with? No one.
Yeah, nothing. And I think that'll probably come at the trade deadline. You would hope that it would, but you never really know who is going to be available and when and what the asking price is going to be and what other teams are involved. So it's obviously a lot tougher than free agency is in bringing somebody in. But yeah, I was thrilled that morning. And it wasn't just Mets fans that were saying they needed something else. It was Steve Cohen himself.
Yes.
He said prior to the Correa deal, he felt like they needed one more thing to go over the top. Once he thought he signed him, he actually used those 2 words that you said, missing piece. So it wasn't just the fans.
It was them.
It was them.
And to be clear, they're good. I am not by any stretch saying this is a bad team. And they're a good team.
Yeah.
But it goes back to what you said. The expectations are World Series this year.
Has to be.
So that's why we probably judge them a little harsher than we need to at 6-5 now through the first 11 games.
Yeah, I just wonder, who is that bat going to be? Like, is Shohei Ohtani going to get dealt at the trade deadline?
He could. It's possible.
But the thing that worries me about that is you would have to know for a fact, and I just wonder if the Mets would pull the trigger on it and not know for a fact that he was going to re-sign. But and who the hell knows? Because you hear things, and apparently he loves the West Coast, and if he's going to move teams, he'd still want to stay out there, whether it would be the Mariners, the Giants, or the Dodgers, or something like that.
The Dodgers are the team that would worry me.
Yeah, and they have the money to do it. Yep. These other teams, the Giants, they basically didn't do anything this past offseason, so they do have the money to do it. The Mariners would surprise me for sure. But there is the Ichiro connection, and obviously he knows about the Mariners. So, but to give up what is going to take to get Shohei Ohtani, you're going to have a guarantee that he's going to be here, and that's the thing that scares me about the trade deadline. And the Mets will go that extra mile for Ohtani, but the Dodgers could too, and the tipping point could be where he wants to live. So if it's not Ohtani, we're not going to know right now on whatever the hell day it is, April 11th. We're not going to know who that guy is now, but it has to be somebody. They have to get the top bat on the market, if not the top bat and the top bullpen arm on the market to really complete this team.
No question about it. And I do think clearly they'll go out and do what they think they have to do. The Ohtani one is interesting because you can clearly outspend anybody in free agency. But what would concern me is, and first we're assuming that the Angels are going to fall off and they're going to make a move for him, or they're going to think that they can't re-sign him. I have no idea what they're going to do with Ohtani. But if he's available and you didn't go out and trade for him, and the Dodgers did, or the Giants did, or one of those teams went after him, you can possibly kiss him goodbye because he could end up just loving it there. I mean, he goes to the Dodgers. I don't think he's leaving.
No way. And maybe he comes here and then his perception of what the East Coast is or not wanting to be here changes. Maybe because it's New York, he just feels like I don't subscribe to the New York bigger star thing, but
not anymore.
Maybe Billy Epler and him had just got such a great relationship, and he fits right into the clubhouse and it's the greatest thing ever. But just what it's going to take. I mean, you could kiss Francisco Alvarez goodbye.
You would think.
I mean, he would have to go. Vientos would probably go.
Yeah, no, you're giving up a lot. If you're going to make the move, you're going to give up a lot, and then you have to pay him a lot.
Yeah, I mean, when are they? I know they didn't want to be in this situation with Francisco Alvarez where he was up at this point. And you're talking about a guy like Max Scherzer who got comfortable with Nito last year, but he did pitch to Alvarez in one of his rehab games. But you going to work him in for real here or not?
I would. It's April. Now he's here. I would play him.
I mean, and if he's not catching David Peterson tonight, then it just doesn't make any sense to me.
I completely agree. He got the one start over the weekend, and that's been it. I would like to see him start, if not every night, 3 out of 5.
Well, yeah. I mean, you want to tell me, okay, Scherzer's got to get more used to him. Kodai Senga is sort of a guy who is a little bit tricky to catch. Okay, fine. But to me, the circumstances dictated that this guy is here. You need help in the lineup. Dipping him in and out in a freezing cold April in Major League Baseball is not going to help him.
Right, and him being a bat off the bench in the 7th inning of a game where he's done nothing for 4 hours. I don't love that either.
You might as well just kept him down if you're going to treat him like this.
Agreed.
Thanks so much for watching the video.
Please like and subscribe.
And don't forget to hit the bell so you're notified when we're dropping new content.